And this should be very non-invasive. Should be pretty transparent and all. How are you feeling right now?
Is it recording?
We're doing a soft go live, like every week we always do this. So thank you everybody for coming to Coffee with Kyan. And I have Renee and Andrus with us today. Hi, Renee.
Hello. Hi.
Renee's a very special guest to me personally. And then obviously with this journey, me coming on board to IT Works, this one person played a really big part, I think, through my own growth and development.
Oh, that's nice.
I have to give that to you because in my career, I have a lot of really great mentors. You are one of a kind.
Thank you.
And that's beyond professional growth because I think that without probably going to your story yet, let me talk a little bit about, I think my direct feeling about how this transition goes as well is, I always thought recruitment is very cutthroat. I always thought recruitment is very much, if you don't get it, I will mentality. And I think that's what you see the dog biting dog situation, especially in agency setting. It's very nasty and can easily turn that direction. So I think that Renee brought a very untraditional, almost unconventional method into how we do things. And I think that's something super unique and special about you.
I'd love to hear you.
Oh, really? Okay. So, yeah, I would love to talk a little bit more, obviously, in this case, about how we have technical difficulties. We're going to talk a little bit more about how this whole transition for you and then your whole story and things. So, hi. So, Renee, tell us a little bit about your story about how did you step into staffing recruitment in the first place?
Well, so I was bartending, and I just graduated college, and I wanted to make a move, and I wanted to do more sales. And I was approached by a actual staffing recruitment company. They said that bartenders make really great recruiters. And said a lot of the soft skills transfer over a lot to what we do on a daily basis as recruiters. And so I interviewed with that company, failed miserably, but understood. Understood kind of like what it was. My first interview I've had in probably about like 6 years.
Oh, wow.
So it was a tough one. It was a learning experience.
Everybody hates interviews, including this one, right?
Exactly. Yep. But otherwise, I ended up doing more interviews. And the next one that for a staffing company I got interviewed for, I got the job. I understood what they were looking for, and it was about 3 months, and then I transitioned into IT Works, which the business model was absolutely fantastic. And it's a new startup company, and I knew that there's great risks for startup companies, but there's a lot of great rewards that it could be with a startup company. I really enjoyed doing a startup company when I worked in the restaurant too. So you're able to dig in, get some roots in, and be able to help influence the process.
In the process, I thought the word actually what you were going to bring up was prospering, perhaps. A startup company is you set your roots in, especially. How early did you join IT Works?
It was in 2014. I think I've been here just a little bit over 2 years, 2.5 years.
Crazy, and obviously Renee have a lot of streaming amount of success. If everybody that's watching right now, I think we have a little earlier technical difficulty. If you can let us know how the sound quality sounds like, we'll probably play through the process and make sure that everything sounds smoothly. But otherwise, we always have the YouTube channel as backup. But coming back into it, how important was it to know about who IT Works is before you came here?
About the company?
Yeah, about what you're getting yourself into.
It's always really important to understand where you're jumping into, because I'm always committed when I take on a new challenge or a new career path. It was really important to understand what the values are, what the mission is, and to understand that is there proper training, is there being consistent. So that was in just the atmosphere and the culture that's around a new company, and there's only three of us
Oh,
when I
bet.
started.
And I was the 13th hire, so you were the third,
Third.
fourth,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. Wow. Let me ask you this way: what were you expecting before you were starting, or even the first few days or weeks? What was it like?
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't know what to expect because, like I said, it's a new company. It was different, and I was still fairly new to staffing, consulting. So it was different. It was a lot of new processes, things that you kind of had to organically grow around, and processes will shape themselves situational. And it was a lot of fun. It was exciting.
Very cool. And especially, what was different or new to you comparing to coming in from another staffing agency or a company that had been there for a little over 3 months?
The environment, the culture, the caring is actually really super compassionate. Everybody really cared and wanted to understand who you were and where you came from, and be able to build you to a successful person.
How so how has it been like throughout your that's probably breaking down into a little bit more of a timeline perspective. What was like your first 6 to 12 months?
It was a lot. It was back and forth. So Gary Dieter was my mentor. He's the CEO, and it was all over the place, which was great, and it was exciting, and first 12 months, it was throw you in there, learn as you go. A lot of training, a lot of collaboration with all the others that we worked with. So that was huge. That was huge in growing and learning. It was huge to learn from other people's situations, to help, moving on further and learn as you go.
Absolutely. So throughout that, what was going through your mind at that time is, what going back to think about your first 6 to 12 months, what were the key or some of the pieces that are hitting you right now, just based on what comes up to your mind first that you learned or that you grasped, or that wow that was crazy, or wow that was challenging, or wow that was rewarding?
It was a bit of everything. It's a roller coaster ride, absolutely, because there's, gosh, the growing from looking back from now to that year, there was a lot of hardships, but there was a lot of absolutely exciting moments. There was a lot of just personal growth.
Is it more personal hardship, or is it more of a company growing hardship, or what was most challenging to you at that moment, or that transition?
I don't know if it was probably more personal. It was more personal growth. It's a business that I've never really had experience in. Obviously, bartending and customer service is a little bit different, a lot different. But it's more of the business etiquette and so that was challenging. But otherwise, the learning about working, I've always done well with working with others and being a team player. But the nice thing is to learn so much more from the team, surrounded by fantastic people, and I learned so much from everybody because they were all very experienced people. So that was a huge impact on me.
I know that you have former companies and employers that are probably watching as well at the meantime, and we mentioned about specific Parkers quite a bit. And then I specifically remember that you're referencing back on the environment, the team aspect. You also feel that here too. How was that transition for you specifically from the daily powwow per se, or the daily regroup before you start the day and so on? How does that compare between that particular environment to how you potentially lead your team at the moment?
At the moment, you're talking about Parkers working at them?
Kind of both. I remember you
Sure.
mentioned there are a lot of similarities.
It is a lot of similarities. We, discuss about our values. We used to discuss our values at Parkers, and every day we talked about it. And it's something that was absolutely. It sets the foundation, and I think that's huge to be able to talk about our core values, not only for our business, but it helps grow through your personal life too. So it is a foundation that should be committed and have consistency. And it's very important, I think, for personal life and in business to
And
have that.
remember why you're doing this in the first place.
Yeah,
And then,
absolutely.
go at it, get at it. No, there's a foundation to the values going from there. So tell us a little about your transition. I know that you started in one market first. When I came in, you already transitioned for quite some time, but was going through obviously learning about the industry or all the rebuttals per se, as in sales we always deal with rejections and sometimes from the beginning. Walk us through a little bit more from your transition from one market that you were brought on first,
Sure.
and then to where you are right now.
So it was probably maybe around 8 months that I was working in an ERP system with IFS, and then was asked to start a new venture or just a new division.
Was it
with
voluntary or
healthcare.
involuntary?
It was a little bit of both.
You had
It
a
was
great
more like a
mentor
little
who
bit
was
of push.
who was influencing you, basically.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
So,
But to me, it was an exciting opportunity to be able to build a market from my own by myself, and to be able to grow it and grow a great team around myself. And so that was really exciting. A lot of hard work, really exciting.
so what was going through your mind going to a brand new market with some experience under your belt, but obviously still learning about everything? What was going through your mind when you first stepped into the healthcare arena?
Like, I have no idea how this is gonna go. I have no idea. But it worked out well. Just went back to the basics. Went back to what I've been taught and what I've learned, and just put my head down and made it happen.
I think obviously we have a business strategy about how we do things, especially the entire full 360 from the sales perspective, as well as the somebody just made a deal. So yeah, from the specifically the basics to the sales, to bring a job on, signing a contract, prep a candidate from the beginning through the end. I think that there is a lot obviously to learn, and we talk about that day in and day out specifically. But obviously in that whole process, what was going to your mind coming to work every day and leaving work every day during that transition from one market to the other?
It was. It was hard, but like I said before, it's kind of just go back to the basics and make sure that I treat the market the same as I did before, because there's little nuances that are different, but it's pretty much you develop those skills. And those are the same skills, and I think the huge thing is just having a genuine interest and care
Crucial. That's very
about
important.
who you're speaking with, no matter who it is, and understand both sides. And along with those foundation skills that I've learned, just make it happen. Yeah.
What do you think was the driving force that for you to want to make it happen?
Definitely the idea to build a market for myself.
For yourself?
Yeah,
The
just
Renee brand?
to know that I did that, I can do that, and I will do that. That was pretty much, I can do this.
Has that always been in you?
Pretty much.
Cool.
I will make this happen, yeah, and I'd like to, I don't know, I've been very independent but also a great team player. But I've been pretty independent my whole life.
So what are the some of the most influential people per se, or instance or cause that have been pushing you along to know that this is what I want, that's what I'm striving for, who I want to be, who I aspire to be? What has been the influences that in your life so far?
Well, obviously, my parents are, really strong people that made it through life. Started with not much, but, made it through life, which is always like, you can do it. And then Gary is like a huge part of, being that mentor and being that guy to transition into, the business and being more of the team lead and having those skills. And so it's a huge part, absolutely.
And making that transition as well, making it happen per se. So I want to talk a little bit more obviously within your market currently, and then from being a recruitment consultant to be a team lead, or perhaps let me break down a little bit further. Even being a recruitment consultant, you talk about being back to the basics, growing a market, making things happen. How does that transpire potentially becoming a mentor? What was your development at that stage? What did you do to
Well,
inspire somebody that are still here?
there's a lot of self-reflection you have to do when you have to kind of take a step back and go basically back through the whole training again to be able to mentor somebody. It makes you better because you're thinking about all these things which you normally are just kind of like a daily routine. You do it and you stop thinking about actually what steps that you're taking because it just becomes natural. And so you have to go back and look at those exact steps and understand, and you can better yourself upon it too, just to think like, oh, I could do this better. Yeah. And so that was pretty much going back to the basics, make sure you can retrain yourself, and then and be understanding. And the one biggest thing is that the person that you're mentoring is not you, and they don't think like you. So this is the biggest learning curve that I had to have. And understand their perspective and how they learn and their personality.
They're human beings, and human beings are very tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the same thing
to say
that
the least.
exactly. And Renee mentioned a really key point is having a genuine interest in the people that in the people who you're talking to, and the people that you're working with, and then that in the full 360 model can be a client, can be a candidate, can be a combination of both. Sometimes it's a team member, sometimes a person working alongside you, sometimes a person who are currently looking for your guidance. What do I do now? The next step, and I know that when we look across the room, that many people are inspired by your story, not just the life story, but also your career progression. So, looking at being from a mentor, being a team lead. Over the course of a little over 2 years, what has that transition been like for you?
It's been a big growing transition. It's been really, like I said before, self-reflective. Sometimes things just click, but sometimes you really have to work hard at trying to understand the personalities and trying to take a step back and come at different points of view and try to see it through their eyes of situations. It's been a huge learning, which makes me feel great because I think when people get it, when the light goes on, it's very gratifying to see them successful and to see them make it happen as well.
When you see that somebody's light bulb that went off, and then completely just transpired into, oh wow, they got it. I did something good today.
Yeah.
And a lot of the entire process is once it's kind of like learning a bike. When somebody get it, when that moment that they got it, it's theirs. And I think a lot of it, we talk about the mindset, attitude is so important on top of personality, because we know the personality before we brought them in or trying to find out a pretty good grasp of who they are. So with that learning process, what have you learned about people or human beings? From growing from a recruitment consultant to a mentor to a team lead.
Everybody's different.
Yeah, you think, right?
Yeah, there's always need to be like maybe a different approach, a different thought process, a different. It's.
I'm so glad we captured that eye rolling on camera. That was priceless. Hey, just everybody know that it's because that Renee, she personally hates camera. So she talked to me for like a week. So you probably see that she's looking at me more directly versus turning towards you. And I know that I think your mother-in-law is actually watching. She's been looking forward to it and to gain some pressure about it. But what did you learn about the differences of the people, the personality, that's in recruitment we know that in sales there's also rebuttals. What about the rebuttals from these human beings? How do you turn those around?
Oh, well, you have to absolutely sit back and listen, and the whole thing goes back to caring too. You have to have a genuine interest in what their concern is. Then you have to understand and try to understand where they're coming from, and it's all about just helping them, help them achieve what their goal is or what their need is. And if you can step back and see that and understand what actually the need is and help them get over these hurdles.
That's a transformation itself. Yeah. The reason I want to capture this specific episode about transformation because I think that you are I know the UK folks gonna hate me for using this word, but I think you're an awesome example of a transformation. And I think a lot of them is people will think that it's the opportunity, people will think that it's the actual environment that shapes who you are, which I think the American staffing industry tend to be that way because you don't know what you don't know. You're being formed in the role that to focus on delivery, very KPI-driven environment. But I think that obviously we have this complete full cage-free, I think the organic term, of the free range that you do everything full 360. So transformation have to come from semi-within, and then I think you capture that asset that you talk about, obviously being independent, and then to now potentially carrying other people around you. Either you see it or not see it, or doing it consciously or subconsciously. How have these success that you see from the people around you that have brought to you? How have you been enjoying that process? Or has that been challenging?
It's been challenging, but it's huge. It's like one of the best things is being successful is to be able to help other people be successful. That means a lot. It means and just celebrate the small wins every day, and always just learn every day. Learn something new every day, which is huge. I think it's a neat thing. I enjoy it.
That's fantastic. So out of all the moments you see people click, can you give us an example about something that moment you felt really proud about? Somebody that did something without name dropping, perhaps. Or that moment they felt, that was a breakthrough moment.
There was a light bulb moment the other day about having somebody on my team just understanding the aha moment and just like, oh, that's what I do. Why I specialize in that. That's exactly what I was there to do. I don't know if I should go into any specifics, but
that's been provided to. It's always been there, but they somehow understood that why it was there in the first place.
Off and just going through it and just talking about it, and the switch just went off, and it's like, oh yeah.
It's about the differences. Everybody learn at a different speed. I think for somebody to capture at that moment is the aha moment.
Yeah.
And it's just very cool. And again, it goes back into differences. But once they got it, they got it. And it's very, very cool. So I know that you're working on a lot of very exciting things, without name dropping out to the client and things all across entire North America. How are you enjoying your current market?
Oh, I love Cerner. I think it's a fantastic market. It's a fantastic EMR. It definitely is something that I think works really well with the hospital systems and being able to customize it. I think it's beautiful. I love being a part of the healthcare market. I think it's fantastic.
I know you've been here fostering this market for over a year and a half now, just about.
Yep.
Right. So, tell us a little about what you do.
I'll specialize in providing Cerner experts to my clients throughout the U.S. and North America, and basically really digging deep in the market and to understand what the needs are between the candidates and the clients, and understand where the market's going, and hoping to just figure out those needs of the clients and place a perfect fit for the candidates into the positions, the careers.
Right, I know that you have a lot of clients and candidates keep coming back to you too. And then how has that relationship building part with both clients and candidate? I know that some of them are actually you have worked with them both in a different capacity as a candidate and as a client. How has that experience been for you?
Oh, it's been great. That's the one thing that within bartending, you talk to new people every day, and I love talking to people. So it's one of the things that you get down to business, but then you get to hear some other side of the story, something personal about them, which is nice because you are building these relationships, and you're building long-term relationships, and that's important. And you get to share your story, and I get to hear other stories.
For people to understand that you're not going away, you're here to stay and then develop and build an amazing market. So I think out of the course of from a one-person market, now you grow to a team of
4 now for Cerner,
Cerner.
but then a team of 8 for the healthcare team.
I think everybody can see behind us. This is Renee's team, the entire health IT team. I think everybody is actually on the phone, actually trying to make it happen. And then, so tell us a little about what's on the horizon for Renee.
Oh, that's gosh, it's one of the things that I need to figure out and how to develop the market and develop more strategy and see how obviously maintain our clients now, but then how to grow bigger. We want to expand our expertise. We want to make sure that we are known for what we do specifically.
Great. So tell us a little about the success you have along the way. So obviously from starting in one market first and start over to you literally start over within the health IT area and build a market successfully. Now you see the entire team behind Renee. Tell us about some of your success.
Oh, okay.
I think there are lots of lists and I can go on and on and on about it.
It's been having the long-term relationships. It's been just establishing really great clients and having being able to understand the needs of them and they can rely on me to help them out. But to build that team around me with the 8 people and 3 other people on Cerner. So those are definite successes.
I think obviously we're building a relationship and then making a difference actually within the Cerner market. It comes along with a lot of the financial rewards. She don't want to talk about it. But everybody can go back and rewind on the video. Obviously see a beautiful watch on her hand, and she's one of our Hall of Famers. And then we have, right now, being a little shy of 3 years old, where IT Works Recruitment Inc. has been in the U.S., I think that we officially have our 4th Hall of Famer. I think that there are several in the making as well. So what was that achievement? What does that achievement mean to you? Being a Hall of Famer, which means our gross profit achieved at least $400K within the 12 months, and Renee actually smashed it. Literally smashed it.
It was a proud moment to hit that goal. It was a great goal. It's you always want to achieve your goals. You always want to push further the goals that you set to, and then always realign and be like, okay, this is going to be another goal now and next time. And it was a proud moment, definitely. And
I want to add that in there right here it's extremely inspirational because you got a team, and not just a health IT team. I think from business systems to Salesforce, I think a lot of people are looking up to. I want to be Renee one day, or I want to be Renee by July. So I think that it's extremely inspirational for everybody that each of us came from a different background, each of us came from a different experience, either in recruitment, in sales, or in all walks of life, really, all different area.
Well, here it's amazing because we're surrounded by people that were the best at what they've done at one point in time, and we're all in different points of our careers here at IT Works, but I've learned something from everybody. There's something you can always pick up from everybody, and we're just such a great group of people that we have. I think it's awesome. Yeah.
Well, because it's extremely inspirational. I think Renee is always somebody who is extremely humble, which I've found that it's really hard to find, especially in the staffing industry, especially in the sales environment. I think that's something that truly, I think I respect you in a great deal. And I think that transpired a lot. So for somebody that potentially are watching your transformation and witnessing through your growth, your development, while you strive before your life, and then what advice would you have for the folks out there hoping to achieve something for themselves? What advice would you have for them?
Wow. Okay. So it's so strange and it might be cheesy, but it's like our values. It's the 5 C's. So you have to be consistent. You have to be committed. The continuity, say what you do what you say. And you have to be collaborative and talk with people around and get that information and that feedback. It might not always be what you want to hear, but it's definitely feedback and to help push you through. Probably a missing one. I can't think of it.
Well, I always think of our last seat, the credibility it comes along with as a.
Absolutely. After all those
Yeah.
steps, and then it just comes along with credibility. And so I think that's, I mean, along with setting goals, and you have to, have that visual goal. But those things, if you do those things, if you relate them back to your steps, then there shouldn't be any reason why you should be successful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic. So, I know that this is a selfish question because I got it from some of your teammates, actually not just one. What advice would you have given to them that should be one day to become who they aspire to be? What advice do you have for your immediate teammates and also people who are looking up to you?
It's kind of like the last question you just asked.
All right, basically just do it. Go by rewind past 30 seconds and do it.
Yeah. And then just keep trying. Go out there and don't be scared to fail. And just try to keep on, get up in the morning and do your best. Put 110% out there. Genuinely care. And there's no reason why, what I said before, there's no reason why they shouldn't be successful.
So what's your long-term plan?
I'm working on that right now.
Has it been realigned?
A bit.
Yeah, a bit. Okay.
So I'm still working on that right now.
Okay. What can you share with anybody about what's coming up in actually 2, 5, or 10 years from where you want it to be?
That's totally in the works right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I can't answer that at the moment.
Okay.
There was, other ideas, and but they're completely shifted. So, yeah.
All right. Okay. I guess
It's a
we'll
discovery phase for myself.
That's actually a beautiful thing. Obviously, that things have changed based on the success you have. You get to realign and look at things again, and probably in a different. The surface is a little different now. The horizon is a little different now.
Yeah, I'm going to take a step back and
Okay.
soak everything up at the moment, and then make that plan.
That's beautiful. The Renee Andrus, I have a very, very successful 2.5, almost 3-year run at IT Works. Always a role model. Thank you, Renee. Thank you for being on there with Kyan. Cheers. It's almost over. Yay.
Yes.
So, one thing, interesting fact about you. What should people know about you? That from our candidate clients per se, people that know you that may not know about you. What would that be?
I love food.
What's your favorite food?
That's like picking your favorite child. I can't say what food it's not my favorite. I love everything.
From one food to the other. I take that as a fair answer.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for watching. We'll be back next week. Renee Andrus. And the best way to contact us, 678-291-0081. Renee.Andrus at
itworksrec.com.
Thank you folks. See you next week at Coffee with Kyan.